Hello, everybody. I wanted to talk with you a little bit today about some couples therapy stuff. If you want to follow along with the handout, that will be on buckblack.com, and it's under the resources section, and then the file name is 7 Caring and Deadly Habits. Today, what I want to talk with you about is going to be based on the William Glasser's choice theory. And basically, it talks about how people pretty much don't want to be controlled by others. So if we look at external control, that would be where people are trying to force others to do things. So for example, you can think of prisons, that's external control. I want you to do something, so therefore let's lock you up, let's make you do it, let's court order you, let's force you. That's an external control. Another example of external control that I think most people can relate to is when people nag, when people whine, when people threaten, and that sort of thing. So that's the more realistic version of what I want to talk with you guys about today. So basically, given that external control doesn't work so well, let's find something that works better. And you know, some of you might be thinking, well, yeah, external control works pretty well. I make them do it, and then they do it, so therefore it works. But the thing of it is, it will work while you are standing there over them, forcing them to do that. So I want you to think about that. When you turn your back, then the person will most likely, do what they want to do. So if there is an internal motivation, then it's much more likely that the person will continue to do that good behavior. So if I personally want to do something, then I'm going to do it. It doesn't take someone else to try to force me to do that. So let's take a look at the problems in relationships. I'm aiming this video towards couples, but the thing of it is, it can be any type of relationship. It doesn't have to be romantic by any means. So let's look at these 7 deadly habits. So these are the top ones that I see in couples therapy on a regular basis. So that would be, we'll go down the list here, criticizing, blaming, complaining, nagging, threatening, punishing, and bribing. So let's take a look at the first one, criticizing. How many times have you been in the situation where maybe you have criticized your significant other because they're doing something that you don't want them to do? So then you get on them and you're just like, why are you doing that? You're no good, and on down the line. So that's not really so good of a pep talk by any means. So that what's that doing? That is running the other person down into the ground. So I want you to think about that one. Blaming, that's pretty much saying, hey, it is all your fault. And when you got the finger pointed right at you, that's not a very good thing. That's not a very good feeling for the person that is receiving that finger pointed right in their face, saying it's all your fault. And I'll tell you, I don't think that I've ever seen a couple that it is all one person's fault and the other person is completely innocent. I've seen people who think that, but I haven't seen it. I mean, yes, I definitely have seen people that it is maybe 60-70% their fault, but that still leaves about 30% for the other party there. Complaining. So that is more of a longer term, saying, oh, I don't like this, this needs to get better, if it was only this way, if it was only that way. That gets old pretty quick. That is a type of manipulation. You're trying to coerce this person into changing their behavior. Nagging, I said that complaining was a long term. Nagging is even longer of a term. So, that might be day in and day out. That might happen several times a day. I don't think anybody likes to be nagged. If nagging was something that caused a person to change, then, well, I would say that people would have changed by now. But you know what? That often isn't the case. Another one is threatening. So let's say that you've gone through all of these and it's not working. So then you're getting really frustrated. So what are you going to do? Well, most likely you're going to start to threaten and say, you know what, if you don't shape up, I'm moving out. If you don't this, that, and the other, then I'm going to divorce you. I'm going to, drag you into couples therapy. I'm going to do something. So it's an out-and-out threat. Often what that does is that makes the other person really mad. And they don't feel good about that. They get very upset. And it only makes things worse. If you take a look at punishing, that's the next one on the list. That one is often what comes after threatening. Because, okay, you run out of things to do, so what are you going to do now? Well, let's try to punish the person. Let's say, for example, that I'm not going to let you go out anymore. I'm not going to go and let you go out with your friends because I don't trust you. Well, that's a type of punishment. Or, I'm going to restrict you in some manner from what you need to do. That's punishing. Should you be punishing your significant other? I really don't think you should be. That's pretty, that's pretty much an adult-child type of relationship. So when you get into punishing, that really makes the other person very upset, and that's not going to work, and it makes them feel really bad about themselves. Bribing is often something that happens when people feel that nothing else is working. They don't know what else to do. So they've gone down the list, and now they're to the point of saying, you know what, if you would just do X, Y, and Z, then I will maybe give you something that you want. I'll give you that vacation. I'll give you maybe if it's in a custody situation, then I'll let you have the kid. Who knows what? People come up with some pretty creative bribes. Again, that is a form of manipulation, and once that bribe happens, then the behavior often goes back to where it was. So those are the 7 deadly habits. What about the caring ones? Well, a lot of people say, I do all those deadly habits, how do I stop doing them? Well, I'll tell you what, let's focus on taking care of the 7 caring habits, working on those, and what that will do is decrease those deadly habits. So, if you are doing these good things, you're going to do less of the bad. So let's take a look at what those caring habits are. The first one is supporting. You be very supportive of the other person in the relationship. That means if they want to talk about something, if they want to do something, if they've got an idea, if they've got something that's important to them, you are supportive of that. You listen to them and you help them follow through on that activity. Encouraging. That means that if you've got somebody that is rather frustrated in the relationship, that is not so sure about themselves, whatnot, you sit with them, you talk with them, and you say, yes, you can do this. Let's figure out a way how. Let's figure out how to take care of this. Listening. That is, I think everybody knows what listening is, but it's more than just hearing. It is sitting there, and it is hearing what they have to say, and it's also, take a note of it up here, and you show the person that you're listening to that you actually are listening by repeating back some of that information that they are saying. So you're right there with them, and you're talking with them instead of it just being a one-way street. So, it's actually a two-way conversation, even though you're listening. Accepting. You've got people who, for whatever reason, you initially might not want to accept what their values are, what their beliefs are, what they're doing. You might not think that's right. So when you accept them, that means, hey, this is who you are. This is where you're at, and I'll take you for that. When you're in a relationship, a big part is accepting. The opposite of accepting is criticizing. So when you do more accepting, you're not going to criticize as much. So that's extremely important to let the person be who they are. And really, why are you with them if you are not accepting of them? If that's not who you want, then why are you with them? Trusting is a big one. You've got to be able to trust a person. You got to be able to trust your partner. If you can't trust them, then you go back and you look at what's going on. Why isn't there any trust there? With respecting and negotiating differences, that's the last two of the 7 caring habits that are combined. Respect is allowing the person to be who they are. It's hooked in with acceptance, and negotiating the differences. That would be, okay, I've got one idea over here, you've got one idea over there, so let's go ahead and figure out how can we get through this? What do we need to do? So that's something that takes a little bit of compassion, a little bit of understanding. It takes many of the caring habits to do that. And I think that the more a person practices these caring habits, the more likely they are to have a good, healthy relationship. So those are my quick thoughts on the caring and deadly habits.